Imagine a serene church, candles flickering against stone walls, a hush over the congregation, and suddenly a dead man appears. That's the opening spark of Wake Up Dead Man, Rian Johnson's latest mystery, which blends sharp humor with a surprisingly reflective core. On the surface, it's a snarky, over-the-top whodunit in the vein of Knives Out, filled with clever setups, absurd twists, and sly jokes. But underneath the laughs, Johnson uses the conventions of detective fiction to probe deeper questions about faith, morality, and human behavior. Think P.D. James's philosophy of murder stories as moral explorations, but with a modern, satirical twist. The film reminds us that crime fiction can be both playful and profound, where uncovering a murderer is as much about revealing human nature as it is about solving a puzzle. And Johnson's knack for combining satire, suspense, and genuine philosophical inquiry keeps viewers engaged from the very first scene. The story is set in a small upstate New York town where a Catholic church has become a stage for conflict and ideological tension. Enter Father Judd Duplessis, a young, earnest priest played by Josh O'Connor, who arrives eager to guide his flock with compassion and integrity. But standing in his way is Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, portrayed by Josh Brolin as a fiery, unyielding figure whose sermons brim with judgment, targeting anyone who doesn't fit his rigid worldview. Wicks's anger has driven most parishioners away, leaving only a loyal inner circle. Martha, the church's diligent caretaker, played by Glenn Close, a sharp attorney, Kerry Washington, a weary doctor, Jeremy Renner, and a famed cellist, Kaylee Spaney, whose donations mask personal pain. This ensemble, a mix of devotion, cynicism, and self-interest, sets the stage for Johnson's signature blend of satire and suspense, where moral and spiritual questions are tangled with greed, loyalty, and secrets. Father Judd's well-intentioned efforts to lead his congregation toward a more compassionate, inclusive faith only fuel Monsignor Wicks's fury. The clash between the idealistic young priest and the domineering Monsignor sets the stage for the story's central mystery. And then, on Good Friday no less, Wicks is found fatally stabbed in the church. Shock ripples through the small town, and suspicion naturally falls on Judd, the newcomer, with apparent motives but steadfast claims of innocence. Enter Daniel Craig as the ever-charismatic private investigator Benoit Blanc, returning with his signature Southern drawl. Blanc's arrival transforms the story into a layered puzzle, one that blends traditional detective storytelling with sly, modern commentary. The impossible crime, a murder that seems beyond rational explanation, becomes not just a challenge for the characters, but a thrilling intellectual exercise for the audience, keeping viewers guessing while also prompting reflection on morality, faith, and justice. Blanc's investigation introduces a delightful meta-literary twist as he educates both Judd and the audience on the works of John Dickson Carr, a master of the impossible crime in classic detective fiction. Johnson's reverence for genre conventions shines here, appealing to mystery aficionados while never alienating casual viewers. Meanwhile, the narrative exposes sharp social commentary. Characters like Andrew Scott's former liberal-turned-conservative writer and Daryl McCormack's failed Republican-turned-YouTuber serve as satirical reflections on American conservatism. These interactions are both biting and humorous, but they never overshadow the emotional core of the story. Judd's struggle to love, understand, and guide his community in the face of intolerance, fear, and grief. Johnson skillfully balances suspense, comedy, and contemplation, ensuring that even as the murder mystery intensifies, the audience remains deeply invested in the human and spiritual stakes behind the crime. As the investigation deepens, the church becomes a microcosm of secrets, suspicion, and moral complexity. Every parishioner carries hidden motives, and Johnson ensures that even minor details might hold the key to the truth. Father Judd, accused yet steadfast in his innocence, embodies the story's moral center, a man trying to balance faith, compassion, and reason in a world brimming with judgment. Benoit Blanc's meticulous detective work, delivered with charm and subtle wit, guides both Judd and the audience through the maze of clues, red herrings, and seemingly impossible twists. The interplay between Judd's earnest belief and Blanc's analytical skepticism turns the murder mystery into more than a puzzle. It becomes a reflection on truth, justice, and human morality, proving that even in comedy and chaos, reason and conscience can prevail. Johnson's sharp social commentary continues to shine, particularly in his depiction of the church's inner politics and the eccentricities of its followers. Characters like the wealthy cellist, the loyal caretaker, and the conflicted parishioners highlight human frailty and hypocrisy, but always with a touch of humor. Judd's efforts to genuinely connect with and heal his community contrast sharply with the self-interest and rigidity he encounters, emphasizing the film's critique of dogmatism and intolerance. Meanwhile, the murder mystery itself escalates, with more than one shocking revelation and the looming threat of a second tragedy. Johnson keeps audiences on edge, blending suspense with comedy and moral inquiry, ensuring that viewers remain invested, not just in the puzzle, but in the fates and choices of the characters themselves. At the heart of the story is Josh O'Connor's performance as Judd, which anchors the film's emotional and spiritual weight. He portrays a man of faith who is not naive, but humble, courageous, and deeply reflective, making the satire sharper and the stakes higher. Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc complements him perfectly, balancing elegance and insight with a playful, almost mischievous detachment. Together, they navigate a series of complex revelations, uncovering not just the mechanics of a murder, but the intricate web of personal and institutional failings that shaped it. Johnson's writing allows humor and contemplation to coexist naturally, resulting in a narrative that is both entertaining and intellectually engaging. The audience is encouraged to question their assumptions, reflect on morality, and enjoy the cleverness of the mystery in equal measure. Wake Up Dead Man concludes with a resolution that is as satisfying as it is thought-provoking. The murderer is revealed in a clever twist, consistent with the film's homage to impossible crime fiction, but the true triumph lies in Judd's journey. He demonstrates that integrity, compassion, and perseverance can prevail even amid chaos and hostility. Johnson's combination of satire, mystery, and spiritual reflection ensures that the story resonates beyond the screen. It's a murder mystery that entertains, challenges, and inspires, proving that beneath the humor, clever plotting, and political commentary, there is a deeply human and moral core. In a world full of cynicism and division, the film reminds us that understanding, faith, and reason can still illuminate even the darkest corners.